All right, well, welcome everybody, whether you're joining us live or catching recording later on. We're here in Journey to You. We're talking this week about habit number 7, which is sit in silence. And I have a special guest, Ian Allen, who's going to come in and talk a little bit to us about how to automate the habit of meditation. And I kind of just wanted to pick Ian's brain and see like what was interesting to him about meditation, give him a chance to share his story a little bit. But I'll get into all of that in just a little bit. To just kind of welcome us in, I'd love to just go around and share, body sensation, feeling, and thought. This is a presencing exercise just for each of us to be able to check in and see what's present here now in each of those 3 categories. So I'll put it in the chat too. Body sensation, feeling, and thought. And when I call your name, you will be invited to share what comes up. So I'll go first. I'm just going to close my eyes and check in. Well, my body sensation is kind of lively. The feeling is nervousness and excitement. And the thought is, I hope this call goes well tonight. Let's go to Jane. Body sensation, feeling, and thought.
Okay, now I'm on. Body sensation. Oh no. Pretty good. I feel a little tingling in my hands and feet.
Okay.
And I'm feeling relieved right now that this is getting towards the end of the day, and I was looking forward to our meeting. And my thought is really.
Say the thought again one more time, Jane.
Just relaxed.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andy Rose.
My body sensation is I'm feeling kind of like my posture, so I just switched chairs. Feeling hungry, and my thought is I don't know if I'm going to get too hungry to make it to the end of the meeting.
I love it. Keep us posted. Okay, Rachel.
I'll give you a 3-in-1, which is, damn, my shoulders are feeling really tense today and a little concerned about that.
Okay, good awareness. Ian, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I just went for a run, so I'm feeling a bit jittery, I guess, and sweaty, and my throat's a bit tingly, and I have the same thought as you. I hope this goes well.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so just a little bit of like Journey to You housekeeping before we dive into the actual habit of this week. I put up on a slide, I kind of just revisited some slides that I made earlier. These were like, I think a part of the very first Journey to You that I did. Just so you can kind of see where we're at in the progression is we're in week number 7 right now, which is looking at automating the habit of sitting in silence. So we have some people in here, like I think Rachel, it's her 3rd time through with this habit. Andy is on his 2nd and Jane is on her 1st. Does everybody here already have a daily meditation habit? Just out of curiosity. If not daily, do you have a meditation habit? I've heard Andy and Rachel share a little bit about. Yeah. Okay, cool. Inconsistent. Okay, cool. And that's kind of part of what we want to talk about is like, what are the ways that we can like find very small progress to make towards implementing or automating a habit like this. Before I get too far, once a month, we get to announce you can maybe see it over on the left-hand side of the screen. Journey to You Member of the Month. And that time has come, and it is Rachel Gorman this month. So I'm super, super excited. I can't believe it's September, first of all. That's kind of crazy. And I think when I started this Member of the Month, I had a lot of people I wanted to honor who were kind of in that very first go around. But I have to say that Rachel has been like a star member from the very beginning. She really exemplifies a lot of the values that we have in the community, as well as the ground rules that we abide by, being all in. I took some time to brag about Rachel last week on the call in her Facebook post that she made in the Journey to You forum. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it was a really fantastic post that I think cracked wide open this whole thing of identity evolution and what it looks like to start to prioritize the behaviors, the habits, the actions, the relationships that you know that you need that are going to help you kind of step into this next version of yourself, the person that you're becoming ultimately. And so, as you know, with winning or not winning, but becoming Member of the Month, you get from me this like top 5 Clifton Strengths test. This diagnostic was very powerful for me in identifying what my strengths were. I started to wrap them into my own identity evolution. I had a slide with them on there somewhere. I wonder if I can find that.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be Member of the Month. I forgot this was a thing. This is a fun surprise.
I think I forgot for like a month or two, but then I brought it back last month and Toppin got it. And since you were away a little bit and now you're back, I wanted to, yeah. So anything else you want to say about Rachel, like your journey and even expanding a bit on your Facebook post of what you were doing airport yoga? I loved that.
Yeah. I did some airport yoga and I was reflecting on that for those of you who haven't seen the post that he's referring to. And I was away for like about 11 days in the Pacific Northwest. And while I was there, I did yoga every single morning. And I wrote about like how that was a big win for me and reflecting how that used to be really hard for me to maintain those habits, even when I was away, when I was traveling with other people, and just how much it meant for me to be able to continue that habit. Yeah. And Patrick, also recently I filled out a couple surveys for you about, I think this and Journey to the Peak, just because I put it off for a while and I decided to fill it out. But honestly, filling out those surveys was a really big reflection for me as well. And it just, and I wrote that something like this in the survey, but it just made me think about like how much more ease I have in my life now compared to a year ago when I joined the program. And I think these habits have done a lot to ground me and help me check in with myself and like really insist on giving myself on what I need. And that's really big for me. Like I can't overstate how important that is. And that's brought like more joy and more ease and more presence. So I'm really grateful for all of that.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And about the feedback forms too. I'll keep on bugging you guys about those and you'll probably see more of them from me. It's a big part of the course that I took to get this whole thing off the ground is like in building the community, I'm trying to like tap you guys for feedback so that I could design for what's most important for you or most relevant for you or most interesting to you. And we kind of get to co-create that. And so I'm still working on building the systems, but basically it should start to turn around more quickly where it's like the feedback comes in, I upgrade the systems. The feedback comes in, I upgrade. And yeah, it's kind of exciting design thinking and prototyping and everything. So thank you so much for filling those out. And it also helps people like get into the community who might be on the fence. Because as you guys might be able to tell, this is still sort of like a counterculture sort of thing. To make the kind of investment that you've made in yourself for the time commitment that you've made, and to really just like set the time aside for your own growth, your own identity evolution, your own health, like Rachel's saying, actually prioritizing all of those things. So that's actually a pretty good lead in to our ground rules for dynamic groups. I'm going to go ahead and share those up on my screen. So members of a dynamic group choose a growth path. Higher levels of growth and development only happen when we stop trying to evolve alone and commit to a dynamic group. Both the leaders and the members must lead each other. Your pace on this path accelerates through engagement. As you pay forward your attention to the group can reciprocate exponential value to you. Most people entering a dynamic group have actually been trained to be passive, skeptical, and energetically separate from the group. The ground rules guide you to attune, engage, and amplify our collective potential. And there are like 10 or 11 ground rules. There's 11. Which one do we want to look at today, you guys? Listening deeply, maybe. I always love nurture identity evolution. What's standing out? Whoever wants to unmute themselves and pick one first, we'll look at that one.
Like prioritize was the one there. Prioritize your growth feels very in line with what like Rachel's share was about.
That's great. Will you read that for us, Andy?
Yeah, I think it pretty quickly. Prioritize your growth. Once you've committed to your evolution, competing desires will arise. You may face a continual barrage of conflicting demands on your time. On a growth path, your commitment to your goals will be tested time and again. Your dynamic group is designed to prioritize your growth. Show up to the group with a wholehearted presence and inspire by taking action on your growth path.
Yeah, let's take a breath or two with this. And I would love to just hear from, one or two of you, how this is resonating for you on your journey so far in the community. There's a lot in here, whether it's around these competing desires that arise, goals that are being tested time and again. If anybody has specificity of examples of any of those things.
Yeah, I just want to say for me, it connects to the part about competing desires and about conflicting demands on your time is something that really resonates with me because, and of course, being committed as well, like Andy said, that does connect to what I was saying before. But that part about time has come up for me recently, just in reflecting on how my summer's been, because I made choices about how I wanted to spend my time this summer. I was traveling a lot, I was away a lot. And it means I'm kind of bummed that I lost out on time spent just hanging out in New York City, seeing friends I haven't seen in a long time. I love riding my bike and I only rode my bike once this summer, just things like that. And I don't have time for everything, no one does. And in the past, I'd get really bogged down by that and by trying to create balance, trying to do all the things. But I now don't know how to put this. I feel such empowerment in making choices for how to spend my time, because saying yes to something means you have to say no to other things. And that's part of your path of identity evolution. And saying, I choose to spend this time this way because this is who I am. And it's going to make me who I am in the future, like we talk about all the time. So there's such power in that choice of how we spend our time. And I've been thinking about that so much recently.
And I think this will really come into our discussion tonight too, with meditation and how, meditation and also just a lot of the habits in general really aid and abet this whole in the way that I perceive time has evolved so much over the past couple of years in my work with these habits and my own depth journey. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Rachel. Anyone else on this, this ground rule? Prioritizing your growth.
I think it definitely relates to choosing to be firm on the meditation path. Because when I chose to be firm and meditate regularly, so many conflicting desires arose. And especially even just in one sit, if you choose, okay, I'm just going to focus on my breath, all these different, I don't know, it's not exactly related, but all these different thoughts and feelings come up that are trying to pull you away from your growth.
Totally. Yeah, even just your commitment to what the sit is. It's if I say I'm going to sit for 10 minutes and it's 3 minutes, and all of a sudden, oh, but I was supposed to text that person, it's really important. Why don't I just do it now? And so it's a great metaphor, metric to use, I think, for kind of what some of these other competing desires are. Sometimes like what I go to with these like competing desires is like, oh, the old foods that I used to eat, the cravings that I have, the things that are arguably more comfortable. And it does seem that like when you're on a growth path, there is this theme of like make the unfamiliar familiar and make the uncomfortable comfortable. And sometimes I think for me, the competing desire is like to just do the more comfortable thing or the easier thing. There's that great Robert Brault quote. I'm pretty sure I have a slide of it on this presentation. It's one of the ones that like really was a huge, or at least some sort of catalyst for me in like starting to more consciously choose not only myself, but like kind of the harder thing or the more evolved thing. And the quote is that we're not kept from our goals by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And I'm not trying to put like a judgment call that like one goal is better or worse than the other, but like this one's probably more convenient. Maybe it's the more familiar goal. This is very much like two roads diverged in a wood. One had a little bit more clarity to it. One was less traveled. And, basically his takeaway from that is like taking the less traveled path actually made all the difference. Cool. Anything else here we want to just touch on before diving into the habit itself?
I think that came up for me, and I think I've said this before, is like hard work is hard. Like growth is hard work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of like bizarre to sign up for hard work, right? Like I feel like usually it'd be easier to not, right? Like by definition, nothing really novel here. Yeah, and so I don't know. It is. I'm just feeling, acknowledging that it is hard, and if you want to do it, like don't expect it to be easy.
Right.
But habituating it is obviously a path where it will become easier the 10th time, than it was the first time. Easier the 100th time than the 10th time.
Well, I think there's something about the feedback loop that gets established where eventually it's like, oh, the hard thing is actually makes me feel really good. Like, what this gets me to is so worth it, and way more worth it than like the kind of, I remember for me, if we're going to go to meditation, it was like, why can't I just stay in my warm covers in the morning for like 20 more minutes instead of getting up? Because the habit that the meditation practice that I started with was kind of, the structure was like first thing in the morning and sometime halfway through the day. And I took it very seriously. And I remember that like that snooze button or whatever it is. So these competing desires. But I think too, to what like Andy's saying, is that it seems bizarre to sign up for something like this, but the signing up also kind of is a way to make it easier, that there's accountability. If you've ever done any sort of athletic sport or event, you make a commitment to more than just yourself, right? And then that, I imagine, would sort of force you to show up a little bit more, because like it's dependent on more than just you. So yeah, Jane's giving us a thumbs up. Anything from you on this, Jane? We got to hear from everyone else. We'd love to hear from you too if you want to share.
Well, I agree with Andy and Rachel. Time constraint, and I'm realizing that if I want to do all these habits, it seems like they're mostly in the morning. So I'm going to really have to start getting up earlier to try and go through those morning habits.
Well, we'll talk about that too. Go ahead.
Good. That's okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about that. Ian has a really sweet little app that like sometimes I do the meditations just when the app notifies me, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So cool. Let's move our conversation into meditation a little bit. I'm going to share this first, just so we have a little bit of context for how we're going to, use what Ian shares with us in service of automating the habit itself. So the habit is, it looks like she used to call it meditate. Now she calls it sit in silence. I feel like probably because that's a little bit less intimidating for people. But here you have that for people, the habit of sitting down to meditate and staying put for the specified duration is the most difficult habit to integrate. Dun, dun, dun. Perhaps in our overscheduled culture, taking time to do nothing can seem like a luxury we just can't afford. We're going to make the age-old argument that we can't afford not to meditate. The stress-reducing benefits alone are enough to warrant even reducing our sleep by 20 minutes to do the practice during times of intensity, nursing moms and sick times excluded. For the meditation habit to gain traction in your life, we suggest you choose one time to do the daily practice, set a timer for your practice, get an accountability partner, preferably to sit at the same time as you sit, regardless of location, check in with your partner at least twice a week. These 4 tips will work to help integrate any habit. Because meditation is such a difficult habit to integrate, we suggest you getting any help that you can. And then looks like there's an invitation to circle any of the most basic proven effects that you could use in your life today: increased immunity, decreased inflammation, calmness, lowered blood pressure, emotional balance, improved digestion, gaining a new perspective on stressful situations. And then there's some worksheets that we'll go to if we need to, but I have a feeling we'll probably just like have a good conversation here. Cool. So you guys, I want to introduce Ian a little bit more formally here before I turn the mic over to him. I met Ian at Roots Holistic Wellness in Chatham, the town that I moved to. And I was really just like looking at Roots as like, okay, this is a place I need to spend more time so I can get around like my next level people set. If you think about the exercise that we did a couple of weeks ago, and it's really amazing like who the universe will put in your path if you just start to do things like that. I walked in, I was wearing an Om shirt, a shirt that had symbols of Om all over it. And Ian just kind of walked right up to me and was like, "Do you ever chant Om?" And I said, yes. And we proceeded to have a nice long conversation about the journey and the pilgrimage that he took in Nepal last year, and some of the time that he spent in the Himalayas with, like, I guess I would say like legitimate yogis. And kind of just like went on his journey. And I think meditation was a big part of that journey. And he's since developed the app that I hyperlinked in the email that I sent to you guys, Rama, which is, I think, is still in its like beta phases, but I've been using it and getting a lot out of it. And yeah, I got this idea because I cycle through these habits, regularly with you. So I feel like I want to always bring new things to the group in terms of perspective on each of these habits. And we'll probably see this more and more in the future, that I'm bringing in guest speakers and whatnot. So that being said, Ian, welcome. And I would love if you just kind of like shared with us a little bit about, like, I don't know, I gave some bullet points of what your story is, but maybe from your words and how meditation has kind of played a role in all of that too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. So when I first got into meditation, like maybe 6 years ago, it was the summer after my freshman year of college, and I had nothing to do. And that was kind of like my goal in life. I was like, for some reason, I just always wanted to not have to do anything. And I felt like I'd succeeded, kind of. Like, at least I was like, oh, I have that desire is fulfilled. I don't have to do anything. But I still felt like a lot of anxiety inside, and like feelings like, oh, I should be doing something, or just like feelings like I'm not, like, I don't feel like I have everything, even though it's all I wanted. I didn't feel like I had everything. And so then I looked up like, oh, okay, like what do you do to be happy without doing anything? And like meditation was one of the things, along with like eating blueberries and like random like stuff about antioxidants. So I was like super determined to just give it all I got, like with the meditation. And I'd been listening to Alan Watts, and he talked about how there's not really like a purpose to meditation, and you're just supposed to meditate for the sake of meditating. So I really embodied that idea, and I just would try to get as much as I could out of it, but without like thinking, oh, I'm trying to get anything out of it. So I would just go focus on my breath, count my breaths, and then every time I got distracted, I would just come back to my breath. And that, like, just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes at night right before bed, it was like crazy, because I remember the first external benefit I saw was I was at a grocery store and I was talking to like one of my friends from high school, and usually those conversations can be a bit awkward. And so I was like judging myself in my mind a bit after the conversation, but then I realized that that wasn't me that was judging myself. It was like a weird realization that I had. So then instead of going along with that dialogue, I was able to just like ignore it and focus on my breathing. And then that like was so crazy for me to like witness, even though it's such a simple thing that I saw. But then since I started getting this like feeling of, okay, I can just be here without needing anything else from meditation, it allowed me to enjoy the things around me more and connect with my friends at a deeper level and stuff like that. And so that was like such a, I don't know, that was beautiful for me to experience. But then I ended up going back to college and lost my practice a little bit, and kind of like felt the desires come back, and
Competing desires.
felt
College.
all the desires. I need to do well in college. I
Mm.
need to keep up my social attitude and be friends with a lot of people. And meditation kind of fell to the wayside. But I always remember that feeling that I had gotten from being really like determined on meditation. And so I would join groups every once in a while, but I never really got back to that state. And I wasn't really into the, like, I didn't follow a lot of philosophy until later on. And then I started learning about all these yogis and like enlightenment. I didn't even have like any goals for that in the first time, but then I started getting goals and like goals within meditation. And it kind of like, in a way, it distracted me from the purpose of it, which is just to like be with what is and be happy where you are. But that my mind fueled me to go on a crazy adventure to Nepal. And that adventure, it showed me so many things. But I think one of my big takeaways was that nobody really needs to go anywhere to like get that peace. It's like here right now, as long as you develop that habit and sit with yourself and just like maintain the concentration and focus. But I think I needed to go on the trip in order to realize that again. And I think there's many other insights that I gained from it, but that was kind of the main thing.
Sweet. So were you meditating regularly while you were on your travels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like every day. But it was more of like a meditation for a purpose. I was meditating to get ahead or to like feel blissful and stuff like that. And I did get to feel blissful sometimes, but it wasn't like a true peace that you can get from just not having so many desires during your meditation practice.
Totally. I think you mentioned something really interesting with this whole thing of like goals in meditation, and that how it can become almost a trap or a problem, but there is some value in it to understand that like, okay, this could get me here, and but then this, like if I sit a little bit longer, or if I do a pranayama beforehand, it actually gets me slightly different results. And so I find the kind of the goal thing almost inescapable, but then when you get trapped in like the goal oriented mindset of like must have, I mean, the yogis talk about this a little bit with like in the sutras as abhyasa vairagya, that you have the intention for the outcome, but then you can release your attachment to the outcome. And I find that to be a big part of like my meditation practice too. Okay. So when do you get this idea to design a meditation app?
Well, it was kind of before I left. I was working as a developer at a startup for iOS apps, and I was thinking, okay, how can I like make some money and teach the world something good? And then I like was thinking about some sort of meditation app with like habits and stuff like that. But then while I was in Nepal, I kind of was like, oh, okay, I shouldn't want money. So then I was like, how am I going to help the world and do something good? And I still thought the meditation app, but I realized like in my journey that since I was so determined and I would just like make myself sit for like an hour or 2 hours and did like 10
Wow.
day retreats and like just create a bunch of crazy stuff. I realized that's not super necessary because when I first started, it was only like 5 minutes and I just was super determined about it. So giving everybody the opportunity, no matter how crazy your mind might be or not crazy, to get into meditation, just starting at 30 seconds and then building from there was something that I realized might help others because it would have helped me if I just took it a little bit slower maybe and just was really determined to not have so many goals.
Okay, so yeah. And I feel called to ask a question, but I also feel called to have you lead us in a little meditation practice. Because I think that the question that I was going to ask might just be, answered in that.
All right, sweet. Yeah, whatever you feel.
Okay, cool. You guys want to meditate? Cool. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Ian. Thanks.
All right, cool. So right before, I guess the two main things that I try to embody in my meditations are relaxation and concentration. And the relaxation of your physical body helps to like not get distracted by thoughts, because thoughts are in a way like just tension in your body. And so like if you can relax enough, then it makes it a lot easier to just focus on one thing. All right, so just sit straight and close your eyes and begin to breathe through your nose. And try to just let your breathing flow naturally. Now, bring your awareness to your face and relax your eyes and your jaw. And now bring your awareness to your neck and your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Bring your awareness to your abdomen and relax your abdomen. And relax your legs as much as you can. If you feel there's anywhere you might be holding tension, do your best to relax it. And now come back to your breath. And just let it fall naturally. See if you can touch the sensations. Feel the breath touching your nostrils and the hair in your nostrils. And feel the coolness of it going in and entering your abdomen and your lungs. Now feel it going out. All you have to do is feel the sensations. There's nothing else you have to do. If you start to think, it's perfectly natural. Just relax your body and focus on the sensations of your natural breath. If you're lost in thought, it's perfectly natural. Just come back to the sensations of breathing and relax your body. Now we'll just focus on the sensations for a few minutes. If you're thinking, when is this going to end? It's perfectly natural. Just relax your body and focus on the sensations. Now when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Ian.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna put I'm gonna put in the chat this video that you sent me earlier today because I think it'd be valuable for people to check in with if they want. Yeah, so the question I wanted to ask you was like, what would you tell people if they're kind of trying to step into that 30 seconds of just like starting meditation practice or whatever? And then I wondered, oh, maybe I'll just have them lead us through it. And I think you did in a really nice way. Kind of want to even open it up for the group. What was your experience in the meditation like? Anything you feel called to share after sitting in the meditation?
It could have lasted longer.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Really good, really good. I find it hard to keep coming back to my breath because my mind is thinking about a million other things. And also I felt I had to keep swallowing, and that bothered the thinking on the breath because I had to stop breathing to swallow.
Mm.
Yeah, that's totally normal. I swallow a lot, but I think it like diminishes too. But there's something about like your saliva and how it's like actually like healing. And so when you meditate, you're actually, I don't know, part of my belief is that you're healing your body, and so that saliva like of swallowing it's sending, I don't know, something. I don't know that much about it, but that's what I believe about that. And as for the busy mind, and that's totally normal too, as long as you're coming back to your breath at some point, not even, it doesn't have to be right away, but as quick as you notice it, then that's all that matters. And if you want to go longer, after like 30 minutes, for most people, I think that the busy mind stuff slows down anyways, but you don't have to do 30 minutes. You can just do a few seconds, and that's like powerful too. And eventually the mind will get there a lot quicker, or I guess you'll get there a lot quicker.
Well, I don't do meditation regularly, but when this one yoga class I take, we have 10 minutes at the end, which is really wonderful. It probably takes me the first minute to scrunch down in. We do Shavasana. So thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Ian. And I liked how simple and how gentle it was, because sometimes like when I've listened to apps or guided meditations in the past, it's just like it gets so complicated, like imagine this thing and put yourself in this situation or whatever. And like that's not what it's about. It's about sitting and like you said, and concentrating and relaxing. So I like the simplicity of that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the big things I was trying to go for with the app too, is just like keeping it simple. Because like we want to touch on reality, and if we're imagining a bunch of stuff, then it's hard to like, we have to undo that at some point. And so the breath is like, that's real. The natural breath is reality, and if you can get with that, then you get with reality. But sometimes counting helps too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of one of the deepest, I think, meditations I've had in a really long time. Yeah, well, my mind did go other places. They were like pretty funny thoughts. Now that I reflect on them.
Do you say funny thoughts?
Yeah. Where it's, I don't know, just things like why do so few people do this? And then I'm like, oh no, I'm doing it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you feel this feels kind of like adjacent from maybe the focus currently, but I am just curious, kind of based on your experience of having kind of gone other places in the world to like explore meditation and that like practice for you. If you do have any like reflections or perspectives on like why meditation is so popular and like widely adopted in certain communities and then so foreign in others, and if you have any thoughts on how that gets bridged.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is exactly what you mean, but in our like current modern whatever America and everything like that, in the Western world, there's a lot of science behind it. So we know if you meditate, you'll like regulate stress, like all these different things. And so I think in this like the westernized world. I don't know if that's like the right word, but that's like the reasons for the benefits. So I think like people just see that it can help for that reason and then they do it. But I don't know if they're like touching on as deep of a meaning as it could be. Because like originally, I think or not originally, but like the purpose, there isn't really a purpose of meditation, but
Right.
I think like a lot of these yogis and stuff do it to like realize the self, or like what am I? So like once you can quiet your mind enough through just breathing or concentration, then you can like contemplate like the question like what am I? And then somehow that like spurs a realization, and like your body, your something, I don't know how this works, but you're like restored to wholeness. So it's like self-realization according to these texts and the yogis and stuff like that is like the main purpose of our lives. And so like we've been on this, I don't know how long, according to them, we've been like being reborn and stuff like that. And so once we like realize this fullness, or we realize the reality, I guess I don't know what happens, because I'm not there yet, but that's like their reason for it in a lot of the like yogic communities, I guess, and like Buddhism and all that sort of thing. And even like modern not more modern religions, I think they have their own form of meditation, which is like listening for God, or like listening to God after prayer. So you pray, you get all the stuff out, like you calm your mind, and then you listen for God, and then eventually like you, I don't know, get that Christ consciousness, or like you become one with Allah or whatever you believe. That's, I don't know, I'm kind of on tangents now, but does that sort of answer what you're...
Yeah, I feel like what you spoke to is culturally like prioritizing spiritual journey and growth. And I kind of feels true to me that there are other cultures that don't seem to prioritize that. And they kind of like, yeah, prioritize a different set of values of stability, or finding a partner and making a family, and or contribution to society, or educational achievements, or
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the other aspect to that is that like with our modern science, we have proved that it helps in all those aspects. So I think the reason why people wouldn't do it is because maybe they don't believe that it helps, or
Right.
like it's kind of like a battle against the mind, meditation in a way. So you meditate, and then eventually like an idea comes, maybe that you believe, when in reality we're just focusing on the breath. But eventually an idea comes, oh, maybe if I stop meditating, then I'll like be able to be more successful. Like maybe you believe that for some reason, and then that's why you don't meditate. Or maybe you never got in touch with someone that meditates, and you never got that knowledge. But it does take, like, we want to be active, like, or the mind wants to be active, so it's kind of going against it. But if you do it regularly, you get more peace, more happiness, everything is better. So I don't know, I guess that's what I see as the reason for why people wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Seems counter to productivity in the moment, but
right. What's being
couldn't
accomplished
be
here?
further from the truth, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's coming up for me that you guys hear me talk a lot about is, an integral evolutionary theory. They work with these quadrants, right? And the quadrants they demonstrate that in every drop of experience, in any situation you want to look at, there's these 4 different aspects, and they exist on dimensions of polarities. So the vertical is individual and collective. The horizontal is exterior, interior. Like one of the things I hear Andy saying is that like you get a lot of people caught up in here. And like what Ian was mentioning too, like there's a lot of papers and data and double blind studies even on like the benefits of meditation and how we can measure that empirically in our physiology, in our bodies, in our levels of inflammation, in our immune system. And so that is the upper right. Like it's anything that can be observed scientifically in time and space. And I would say that like right now, based on where like a lot of Western culture is kind of like this green altitude of development that they also talk about in Integral with the spiral dynamics model. And so there's a valuing in orange too, really, like valuing rationality in science, individualism and democracy, capitalism and materialism. You see a lot of people in green as well, valuing plural, I can never say this word, pluralism, equality, relativistic and sensitive, civil rights, environmentalism. When you start to make the leap to the upper tiers, you get into a lot of what people would maybe call woo-woo or enlightenment theory, you know, witnessing natural hierarchy, seeing systems of systems, holding multiple perspectives, becoming flexible, creative, effective, leading edge of consciousness and culture. Upwards of that, seeing the world as alive and evolving, holistic and cosmocentric, living from both individual self and transpersonal self. So with an awareness of the interconnected nature to all. It's emerging now. So we're kind of only here. That you notice that like there'll be timelines for these too. We can see how long these stages have been online in culture. And this is now emerging. And those of us who are post-integral, realizing oneness, exhibiting wisdom, joy, and love, this quality is seen in states and stages throughout history. So one of the things that's interesting with integral is like, as it gets deeper, the span becomes fewer. So you see fewer people who are actually kind of at that level. And so there's a big opportunity with meditation, I think, to access the inner space, to really let the journey go inward, where culture a lot of times is kind of pushing us or keeping us out. And I kind of try to hammer that home in here. Like there was a Carl Jung quote we brought in a couple of weeks ago that was like, the world will be saved by people who develop an awareness of their interior world and can balance opposites. And so I see a big opportunity with meditation there, because it's like what's being said, it might be the opposite of what the normal behavior is. And that's just what the doctor ordered in terms of moving more into this place of wholeness, of evolution. So let me come to the quadrants really quick again and just walk through kind of how I'm thinking about what we just did. You had an experience of yourself. So in the top, in general, your body, you had an experience of your body. Ian was asking us to observe sensations that you could probably in some way measure, right? Talk about the quality of the sensation in your mind, or your stomach, or your this, or your that. You could even go into brainwave states. There's a lot of people doing work on brainwave states now. Beta brainwave states, alpha brainwave states, delta, theta. That's all upper right.
Mhm.
When you move over to upper left, you're getting more into the subjective space, your thoughts, your emotions, your memories. This is less physically tangible. You're in states of mind, perceptions, and immediate sensations. So still sensations nonetheless. And maybe even sensations that we could get a little bit like, if we don't go deep enough, stuck and thinking like, okay, I am this, right? But integral will always push us to a point of view that's inclusive of all four of these quadrants. We are actually tapping into lower left here, the intersubjective space, because we're all on this call together. We just shared a meditation in space together, and arguably that's what made it deep and powerful, or at least contributed. And then you could talk about lower right. We're on Zoom. You're in a course, right? There's a structure just to journey to you, what we're doing here. So yeah, just for a little bit of context, I like to kind of bring it to this all quadrants perspective, as demonstrated in integral evolutionary theory. Cool. Ian, I know you had something too that you kind of drew up. Do you want to share that? Or do you want to point the conversation in a different way?
I can share it. It's super meta, and I don't know if it makes any sense.
We're pretty meta in here.
You want me to share it?
What do you guys feel?
Yeah, what do you guys want?
You're getting thumbs up. All right.
For it.
So I'll give you do you want me to share the image?
Oh yeah,
I can probably pull it up on my.
I can share it because I can minute so. Oh, okay, there you go. Oh wait, I added something.
Okay, but let me do the other one. Sorry. I wonder if it makes a difference if I put it on my second screen. Does it get clearer? Let me try that. Well, it's clear for me. So, cool. So, yeah, floor is yours.
Yeah, there might be a lot of errors in the writing and stuff, and this isn't exactly like accurate probably. So as I said in the top, these are just like ideas, and so just like take what you like and throw away the rest. But in the top left, this is kind of like what I feel like is how we see the world a lot of the times, where it's like there's a past and there's a future, and then there's the present, which is like really small, but the past and future are way more important than the present. And the present is kind of like very insignificant. It's just like there, but I can access the past and I can access the future. And who we are is sort of tied up in the past and the future. And we do think we're separate too from all these things, but we're mostly defined by the past experiences, and then like the future imagination experiences, your body, your personality, your name, your mind, like any thoughts. That's how I feel like, I mean, I see myself a lot of the times like that. Like I'm Ian, I went to like college. I just defined myself, even though it's not a conscious thing. I just like, it's not like I'm just seeing reality. There's filters, and I feel like there's a sequence to time. I feel like there's a past that just happened, and I feel like there's a future that will happen. And so I don't feel like I'm really touching the present all the time. And so then if we go to the next one, this is how I feel like it actually is in the middle. I don't know if it is actually like this, but conceptually, which is erroneous. It's like the self or who you really are isn't like attached. It isn't defined by anything that is mental. It's not defined by your past. It's not defined by your future. It's just awareness. And this awareness goes through all these filters to see what reality is. And then it comes back from reality, and it's filtered through the mental filter again. And then we don't see what reality is. We see the past and we see the future, and we see our problems, and we see what we want to see, sort of, even though it's not what we want to see. But we just think that we have these desires of like things that we want to do in the future. Maybe it's like eating food, like you were saying. Maybe I'll be hungry in the future, so I'm sort of pulled away from now. I'm rejecting the present. And there's all these like symbols, like I'm looking at a computer right now, and I've defined that as a computer, and so I'm not really seeing it as what it really is just like a bunch of pixels and stuff. I don't know, this is super meta, but
well, it's like it is and it isn't, because there's ways to think about it too, where like this mental filter is like my dirty ass bathroom mirror that's like got weird gunk all over it, and it's not really reflecting the image of me back as purely to myself as it could be. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, I need a little bit of like Windex in there, clean it up. And then the reflection is actually more pure. But one of the things, and they were getting into this on the Wisdom of the Sages podcast the other day, is like, sometimes we confuse the reflection for the reality. We confuse the filter for what actually is. So if I put this thing back up in here, you know, it's, if the filter is too densely packed with like, I mean, you can go to a vacuum with this too, right? The stuff can't get through. And so your perception is going to get stuck kind of about all these things that he's listing here, your cravings, your aversions, your filtered memories, your imaginations, you're too much in the future, you're too much in the past, you're reviewing, you're rehearsing all the time. And like you miss this like very nice narrow window that actually can get you right into the present moment. And anybody who's working with me in Journey to the Peak right now, we're talking about dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, and what it's like to actually channel single pointed focus and awareness so that you can witness and become present to the essence of the object of your awareness, the essence of the object that your attention is resting on. And I got into that a little bit in the yin class this morning, but like, I don't want to completely hijack Ian's thing here, but like, is that at all aligned with what you're trying to say here, Ian?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Keep going.
Yeah, no, so I don't know. There's just a lot of filters going, and a lot of them are subconscious too. So, and it's not a problem, but it'd be nice if we could know what's the filter and what's not the filter, so that we can choose what we want to keep and what we want to let go of. Like a lot of trauma is just the mental filters that we believe that we have to keep propagating. There's something fueling it, and it's just hard to see that. It's hard.
Well, a lot of times, like you're mentioning in the meditation, relax the body. It's stored in the body.
Yeah.
You know, so the body's sending us these reminders that are almost also false. So if you want to get into trauma, that becomes a very interesting element in all of this too.
Yeah. So like, do we have to hold it in the body? I guess that's the thing. It's like, it's not conscious, but it's an evolutionary thing that we're holding these things in the body. It's like a powerful reminder of what not to do or what to do in the future or in the past, but reality is here and now. So, and we don't need to protect from anything, at least not when we're meditating. So we can begin to let go of the things that aren't necessary.
Now, have you ever had anybody talk to you about like kind of meditation that almost becomes re-traumatizing in a way because they're being asked to like be with their breath in a way and they might not feel super comfortable or safe with breath or even safe to be silent for like a long amount of time? Has that ever come up in any of your work?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely talking to me about that. And I think that's where it comes in, like, do what you feel is best. Like if this technique isn't right for you, then like prayer or like chanting or singing can be your form of meditation until you're ready to like sit with your breath. And there's no rush. There's no pressure to like go through anything or do anything.
Cool. You're still an agency basically. Is like you're the one flying your plane.
You're the one. You can meditate with your eyes open. You can meditate for 1 second, and you can just breathe. I don't know. It's not like follow your own inner guidance, like I said, and throw away the rest.
Yeah, for sure. I like that you put that little disclaimer. Jane, you look like you might have a question or comment.
I have a question. Ian, have you ever done any meditating where you or someone gives you one thing to think about while you're meditating? I was to a couple of Buddhist services, and one of them was when we were meditating, and I forget what we were thinking about, but there was one specific thing we were supposed to be thinking about.
Yeah, I've done like a mantra or like a word or something or an idea.
Yeah, like a word or an idea, right?
Yeah, I've done that. I think that's good too. And it takes like I think it's just as good. The only thing with that, with the focusing on a word sometimes, is that like it doesn't bring you into your body as much. But I think it's just as good. Like I don't think that there's a better or worse way to meditate. It's just like for some people that's better. Like especially if you have something that you like maybe you're really into roses, or like you just like feel great when you hear the word love, and so you can just like focus on the word love. And that's like another way that like there's not really anything strict. It's just like what absorbs your consciousness, what is easy for you to just like focus on. And so if that's a mantra, if there's a word that makes you feel good, and some words like in these like ancient texts, they believe that they do different things. So like om, like if you just focus on the sound om, eventually the idea is that like you're absorbed in it and like you feel super blissful or something. But yeah, I totally am with that. It's just for me, I like breathing, focusing on breath more. It feels more natural to me.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
It definitely does, I think, turn into a choose your own adventure practice. I've been talking a lot about like the depth of my devotion lately, and like in bhakti, and so chanting with prayer beads is a meditation, and it's kind of like a meditation on a mantra, and it's not a mantra that's like without quality to it. There's actually very specific quality to it. And there's many different forms. I remember asking, like when I was in yoga teacher training, like what's the difference between meditating on something versus like sitting in meditation? For example, you can meditate on a concept, you can meditate on a tree, you could look to something and just meditate on it, right? An image, a thought. But then these other practices that are almost like, and when I got into the transcendental meditation practice, I found this to be much more like a non-content based practice. You know, there is a mantra, but it's kind of moving me more towards this, like get into more space consciousness in a way. Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to share this thing again? There's a few more things on here.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah. Let's get into what's it like in an advanced meditator's mind.
Well, I haven't experienced it truly, so it's just a
Come on.
based on, okay, a little bit maybe. I've touched on tiny.
Yeah, let me get this how I want it. Where did the there we go. So walk us through this one.
Yeah, so going off your mirror analogy, I think in a really advanced meditator's mind, they say there's no mind. So it's just like you're observing reality as it really is. And so the mirror is perfectly clean, and you're just seeing reality. And that doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means that there's no more things that are obstructing your vision. And this isn't necessarily eye vision, but sensations in your body and everything too. And so at this point, it'd be like you don't have any desire. There's no need to be in the future. There's no aversion to like the past or the present. And so when you don't have a desire, like I think a lot of people think of, oh, not having desires is like, oh, I want to have desires. But if you think about what it means to not have desires, it could mean that all your desires are fulfilled. So you're totally fulfilled in a state of no desires. So it's like right now, if you had everything you want, how would that feel? Sort of. That's like how I imagine this state to be. It's like I have everything I want. I don't need to be in the future. I don't need to be in the past. I'm just here and totally fulfilled. Yeah. So then it's like perfect reflection of reality. And I think in this state, you would know who you are as an experience or as a truth, rather than like an idea of like, oh, I'm Ian. It's not something that I would be able to explain to somebody else, maybe, because it's just an experience or a knowledge, a knowing. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, anything else down here?
Yeah, I mean, this
Some tips. I can send this to everybody too.
Yeah, I mean, just don't take it too seriously. Like, use it as you wish. But I think one helpful thing that I like is to imagine meditation as a practice for how I would live if I had everything I could ever want. So if you think about it right now, if you're like craving stuff like, oh, I have to like, I don't know, do this thing tomorrow, or like I don't want to do this thing, or I like that's how you'll feel if you like say tomorrow you got everything you wanted. You still have to undo all that the mental programs that you created, the mental programs saying, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not like here right now. So meditation is in a sense a practice for preparing you for what it would be like if you had everything you want. So then eventually in meditation, maybe you don't get everything you want, but you feel like you have everything you want. So then you don't want anything at that point. It's kind of like a chicken egg scenario, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
I dig it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it rings very, very true to me. I think this like whole concept of there's just like societal like paradigms and constructs that we don't really like know when we learned, or even that we learned them at all. And now there's no toolkit really to like take them off. But yeah, potentially meditation has the ability to help see more purely, potentially, right? Like I think that there are some pretty strong constructs and paradigms that are hard to undo.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And some of them are like I just been talking with another meditator up here who wrote a book that's called Tea and Cake with Demons. So like tea and cake with demons. Yeah. It's on, I guess I got it on Amazon. Her name is Adriana Limbach, and she worked at Mindful in New York City. And the idea is like, it's kind of a, Pima Chodron talks a lot about it too, is we don't want to be with our stuff sometimes, you know? And that was a huge crux for me, is reading Pima Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart, is learning that tenderness and those kind of the hard stuff is actually really where the gold is, you know, really where the true wisdom and the opportunity for compassion and all of those things are. So yeah, I can see how it would create aversion for people to like maybe not want to. But a big part of my practice lately has just been like, okay, can I understand this as patterning? Can I just take stock? Can I just take inventory of what's here? I'm not saying like try to understand like must figure it out, but just like, can I be with this, you know, and acquaint myself with it a little bit more. And I don't know who I'd be if I didn't have a meditation practice. And I'm not really right now at a place where I'm like, have a rigid, regular thing. There was a while when I was doing that TM practice twice a day, 20 minutes religiously, maybe 3 or 4 years. I was on the road with the show at the time, but even in my rehearsals, like talk about competing desires. On like rehearsal days, I remember like once lunch break hit, I went somewhere, I sat down, I closed my eyes, and then I ate, you know, because I knew what the benefits were going to be. Kind of gave me a second day. So you have a TM practice too, don't you, Ian? You got the technique from someone at some point?
Yeah, I got the technique. I don't do the TM anymore, but I did do it like for a good amount of time, and it was very beneficial to me. I just like breathing meditation was my first practice, and I feel like that got me somewhere, and so I just going back to that was like I just realized I don't need so many techniques. Yeah, it's more of a mental thing. And I think another thing that I realized too is I think we do need to like work through some of our stuff, but at the same time with meditation you can get through things without having to actually engage in anything. Like it's not like, it's like if I can make myself believe, okay, I'm totally fulfilled, then maybe something comes up that like says, oh no, that's not true. But I just focus on my breath and let that pass. And it's the focus of the breath that is like the anchor. That's like the bliss. Like if you can find something that is your bliss, like what's his name? Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. I believe that is like the truth. It's follow what excites you, and things will go away that aren't meant to be there. it's not like you have to, you don't have to like necessarily like dive deep into the like nasty stuff. You just follow what excites you, and that shit will leave eventually.
Yeah.
Is what I believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow what you are blissed out by.
Can be, for sure. There's so much more I could say. We have about 10 minutes left, and I would love to just kind of have everybody walk away with a clear, concrete plan for what you want your meditation practice to look like over the next 7 days, and go back to the Kaizen approach. So some small incremental progress from wherever you are now. What will it look like for you to up level your meditation practice? Ian's app is available on. Tell us more about how people can get the app. Do you want people going on the app right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you
Okay.
want to, it's only on the iOS App Store though, unfortunately, and it might have some issues. So, if you don't hear a second bell after like a few seconds, then there's something wrong, because that happens to some people.
That hasn't happened to me yet. I've always got the second bell.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, like a few people told me that they didn't hear the second bell sometimes. So,
Okay.
um,
Tricking people to meditate longer.
getting people to like sit for hours, but yeah, you can download that. It's just, I just thought it was a good way to like keep a consistent practice, because it has reminders, and I have like 10 guided meditations that sort of give you like the technique of counting your breath, your natural breath.
You're also on Insight Timer. I should share that with people. I'll put it in the chat.
It's not super developed yet.
Our qualifications are our disqualifications.
Cool.
Or our disqualifications are our qualifications.
Yeah,
Let's hear from. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think for me, my main thing, I guess, to depart is like, it's not so much about how long you're meditating. It's just about like consistency and choosing a time that you can 100% be focused, like that you're not going to move, like you don't have to get up anyway. Like if you can just do it for 1 minute and you can do super consistent, like I'm just going to focus on my breath, that's it. Eventually you'll like actually want to like sit more, especially if you bring in that feeling of like, I have everything I want. Like trick yourself into believing that like you don't need to be anywhere else. You're already fulfilled in your meditation. And then once you'll get that feeling and you won't want to stop meditating.
You'll be hooked.
You'll be hooked.
All right. So what are you guys what are you gonna do? We talk about it, we make it public in here, so that way your accountability is upped a little bit.
Well, I just want to say I really like this framing, Ian, that you're saying of like meditation as like learning how to be satisfied with the present moment. I like that. And that's something I'm going to keep reflecting on. I've never heard of that like as a definition of meditation before, even as a consequence of meditation. I like that a lot. But okay, my plan for this week, I want to do 5 minutes of meditation as part of my bedtime routines, like as I'm getting ready for bed. And I recently restarted the self-massage with oils, which I sort of I took a break from it during the summer because I was like hot and sweaty and too oily. And I was like, I don't like this. But so I took a break, but I'm restarting it again. So I think I want to do my self-massage with oils and then do 5 minutes of meditation after that. That'll
be sweet. You're making me think to one of the team leaders in Body Thrive Kate's community, and she has a similar habit stacking rhythm where she does her self meditation right before, and then she has a special robe that she wears. It's her oil robe. It's like her Abhyanga oil robe. She puts that on and then she meditates in the robe. So if that resonates at all, feel free to steal it.
I need a robe. Yeah.
You need the robe. Okay, let's go to Jane.
Okay.
You're good. You're unmuted. You're unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do 5 minutes in the evening. Yes, getting ready for bed, I can do that because I know when I get up in the morning, my mind is thinking about what's going to happen that day. I need to do it in the evening. I'm sure of that.
Good, good. Yeah, pick an alarm for your timer that's nice and like peaceful. Or as peaceful as possible. Maybe don't do the one that's like okay, good. That's great, Jane. Can't wait to hear your results there. Andy.
Yeah, I'm feeling inspired to do something in the evening. I've never really meditated at night, and I'm often quite good at falling asleep. So, but I have recently kind of had some challenges falling asleep. So maybe bringing a 5-minute meditation to bedtime will serve me well. I'm gonna try and do that.
I think I'm going to do it too. You guys are all inspiring me. So we all have this 5-minute pre-bedtime evening meditation. Maybe Ian will join us. And yeah, cool. Any other questions for Ian or questions about automating your meditation habit or takeaways that you want to share from the call tonight? Would love to have at least one or two.
Ian, are you also in Chatham?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you land there?
My parents moved here when I was like 10.
Ian
Okay.
knows Queechy Lake. Andy's family has a house on Queechy Lake.
My family?
So sorry, Ian knows Queechy Lake, period. Andy's family has a house on Queechy Lake.
That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
sweet. I thought you said auntie.
Oh, yeah. And I've gotten
Yeah,
the
I
chance to
lived
spend
up
some
there
time up
for a
there.
while. Patrick and I switched locations. I lived up there for a while during the pandemic, like October to February of I don't know, 20 to 21, I guess. Yeah, Patrick was in the city. He made me think it would be a good idea to come back, and now look where he is.
Oh my God, I haven't really ever thought about that. Wow, we switched. But the week in Queechy was that was powerful. It was winter, the lake was frozen over. So it was a really just sweet time to connect with the season.
Walking in the pine forest up there when it's snowing is like,
it's a meditation.
yeah, go to Bash Bish next time it
Oh, I
snows
love
and
Bash Bish.
walk up to Sunset Rock.
Mm.
It's really good.
Yeah, the weather is really sweet here right now too. So Chatham Retreat is going to happen sometime in the next, probably, I guess, over the next year. Probably once the weather gets nice. I don't think I can make it happen this fall, but like that'll be good. It'll be real sweet. Ian will probably be involved. There'll be chanting, there'll be kirtan, there'll be liberating structures. It's going to be very exciting. Okay, cool. I digress. Any last things for meditation before? Oh, I have one quick story I want to share. This was really sweet. Ian and I were having a conversation one night in the yoga studio. And I was talking about like the growth path and what it's like to be on a growth path and how sometimes it can be hard. Things come up, competing desires arise, you get scared, you have doubts, you don't want to engage, whatever it is. And it can even be like chaotic. Like I found it to be chaotic. And I asked Ian some sort of questions like, how do you stay anchored in peace? Something like that. Or maybe he said, stay anchored in peace. I'm like, how? And he straight up was just like, Anapanasati. And say just like one or two things quickly about that, Ian, before we go. Because I think it's really that thing. It's like change is inevitable. Transformation is like if you want to consciously take control of your life and transform in a direction of your choosing, right? But that's a collaboration. So like wherever you're choosing to go, there's going to be a lot of other input from the universe and other people and this or that. So how do people stay anchored in peace as they're on this journey? You responded with this thing of like Anapanasati. What does that mean?
Yeah, it just means breath awareness. But I think like going back to what we were saying before, I think in this, like in spiritual and self-help, there's a lot of like emphasis on shadow work. And I think people get a bit caught in that, like thinking, oh, I can only be happy once I go through all my shit. And so, excuse my French, but if you can find that like breath awareness and just like make yourself believe that you have everything you want, but you don't even have to do that. Just focus on your breath. If you can stay anchored in that piece of just, it's only the breath. Like maybe my body feels anxious, but I only have to focus on the breath. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to like go into the darkness. I just have to focus on my breath, and that will all happen on its own. All I have to do is focus on my breath. All I have to do is be anchored in peace. Maybe it's not your breath for you. Maybe it's just saying I am light, or I am love, or just imagining a beautiful situation for yourself. But I just believe that if you can remain anchored in that piece, then yeah, you can do your shadow work too, but make peace and happiness your priority. I don't know if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
easier said than done, but just focusing on the breath, I think, is that in and of itself is eventually it turns into a very peaceful thing.
I mean, even as you were just talking, I was trying to do it, being like, oh, okay, wow.
All I have to do
It's
is
always there, you know, it's never not there. And that's when you're looking for things that are present and things to be with, it's very profound, very poetic. Well, thank you, Ian. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some of your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience and your stories with us. It means a lot. And yeah, you guys, I'm really looking forward to hearing how your experiences are in meditation, and we'll keep going next week. We're on the final couple of goals. I keep saying this, but like we'll start second round, or another round rather, of Journey to the Peak October 11th. So I think we get Rachel for one more round, which is going to be really sweet. We get Andy and Jane, they'll all be here too. So if you know anyone who's interested, the best thing to do would be to just get them in touch with me, and I'll get on a call. I'm taking a lot of calls right now. And I think we're going to have a good group going forward. So yeah, excited to see where this community is going next. You guys are a big part of that. So I love you. Namaste. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
talk to
you.
you all later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you,
soon.
Ian. It's so great to meet you.
And nice to meet you guys.
Namaste.
Bye everyone. Namaste.